What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Motor Mouse Garage. And today, what we're doing, we're back in the dungeon garage. And what we're going to do today is we're going to tear apart the 80 series transfer case, rebuild everything. So we're going to put new seals, we're going to do new bearings, and we're also going to do 3-to-1 low range gears, and then we're also going to do a 10% underdrive high range gear. And the reason I want to do that is because eventually I want to upgrade the axles to, differentials to 4/8/8, and I think that's going to help out my overall drive ratio. And you know, I'd like to run 35-inch tires without too much of trouble. Maybe 37s. I don't know. 37s are kind of big for what I'm using it for. It's not a rock crawler, but we've got everything set right here, and we're going to start disassembling this thing. So this is, I think, most of everything I'm going to need. And this is sitting on some cheap Walmart table that hopefully will not collapse throughout the duration of this repair. But we can basically go over general disassembly. But first thing that we got to do is get this motor off. And then all these sensors need to come off. And a couple wiring harnesses, but you guys will see me do all that stuff. So let me get set up and let's get started. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get these sensors out of here. I'm just gonna use a hammer to spin these out and an adjustable wrench. I already took pictures of where these go because I don't wanna mix these up. My only goal to get through with this is to get through this without collapsing this table, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of worried about because this is just like a, you know, $50 Walmart tables. So that's one sensor. Let's get these guys right here. Maybe. Let's get on here. Let's see if that is enough meat. There we go. Just giving my adjustable wrench a light tap with a hammer, and that'll get him out. If I could stop hitting the camera. I'm not sure if I have new seals for these sensors, but if I don't, I'm gonna have to get some. Okay, now I'm going to take, there's a bolt here that holds this little harness in that I'm just going to break loose, which is a 14 naturally. So for the record, I've never done these types of transfer cases before, so it's going to be a learning experience for me. So I've done like chain driven transfer cases, mostly for Land Rover, the newer ones, but I feel like this is going to be a lot easier. There's a lot less special tools required, I'll tell you that much. Okay, I'm just going to throw this in here lightly, just so I don't forget where any of that goes. So I'm going to try to separate all these components to different sections of the table. Of course, that's 12. But I think we can use an impact for some of this, at least. I think these will break loose pretty easy. Oh, also, shout out to Otram, because I watched his videos on disassembling this, and he made it really straightforward and easy. I think the hardest part is going to be the main gear carrier with the low range gear and high range gear on it. I might have to get some special tools for that specifically, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I need my mallet, because I don't want to bang on this with just a normal hammer. Probably 30 years of stuckness. Okay, this guy's going to come out and looks like the gear came with it, so that's awesome. So I'm just gonna set this off to the side. So next thing we gotta do is we gotta get this probably T40 out of here. And there's a ball bearing and a spring in there. Is it a T40? It is a T40. Look at that. There's that. I'm gonna put this over here. Now I need a magnet to get that spring out. Spring and ball bearing. These two things are in there, and I just want to like get these out of the way. Next, we got to take off this front extension housing. So as this comes apart, so for example, when I get this front extension housing off of here, I'm going to move it off the table just so I can take some weight off of it because I am pretty nervous. So some of these bolts are sealed with Permatex, I believe, or some kind of like thread locker. And essentially, we're just going to take all of them off, and then we're going to try to pry this out of here. Nothing too crazy. So I'll probably crack all of them loose with this. Oh boy. This is going right on my foot if this collapses. Good thing I only wear sandals. Wear the proper footwear, guys. Don't do what I do. These guys are on here with some force. Okay, we got one more on the bottom. Now that they're all broken loose, I should be able to get them with this guy. Let's see. Okay, so these are noticeably different sizes. So all of these side ones pretty much, I think this is the only super long one. I'm not really gonna keep too much track of this because these bolts are only gonna fit one way. So just kind of set them off to the side here. That is all of them. So now I have the pleasure of trying to split this thing apart, which is gonna be interesting. And I'm probably gonna need Bertha for this one. There's one, and that should be enough to keep it going here. So this thing actually has some prying lugs around it, more or less. I'm going to use, oh, my little prior, here it is. So I'm gonna use this in this gap. I'm gonna be pretty gentle though, because I don't wanna mar this surface. So I'm just going around where the dowel pins are, and I'm just inching my way, there we go. And now this whole extension housing comes out, like so. So here, I think this is the little oil pump we've got here, and then this guy I'm just gonna set off to the side. And then notice those shims that came out. Those are pretty important to not lose. So these came from right here. It's actually only one shim, looks like. Yep. I'll leave that little spinny pump thing in there. And now I believe this is ready to come off. So let's see if these are 14s. They are. Yeah. These come out easy peasy. Pay attention to what comes out of here. Looks like some more shims. It's very important not to lose shims, guys, because they're critical for the clearance on this transfer case, which you don't want to get wrong. I believe this needs to come off next, and then I think everything else will just come right apart. So this whole thing will just bloop, come right out. I need to figure out what type of sealant that is, or what to use there, because I'm not 100% sure. There's another pry spot that I should probably utilize. I feel kind of ridiculous using this giant thing to get this off, but that's all I got. There we go. So I know for a fact that this snap ring, we can take that off. That way this whole thing stays in here. I'm gonna see if I can take off the giant one with the snap ring pliers I have. So I have snap ring pliers, but they don't have the external grooves. It's just for the holes, the snap rings with the holes in them. So these aren't the greatest to use for this, but we're gonna give it a shot anyway. I think I need to go get some snap ring pliers. Let me check to make sure, because these have removable tips. Let me make sure I don't have the right tips already. All right, ladies and gents, I have returned with the proper tools. So I ran to Napa and I got some of these snap ring pliers. Well, I might have to file these down a little bit because there's not a ton of room. There we go. See what? I'm not a big fan of these type of snap rings. Oh, finally. Victory. All right, so not the greatest snap ring pliers, but they will definitely work. All right, so now we can take off these other case bolts, and then this whole situation should remove itself. Oh, hold on, table. Hold on. Don't fail me now. It's the world's strongest Walmart table, man. I think that's it. Whoop. Sorry, I realized you couldn't see most of that. My apologies. Just gonna go around, break this seal. Looks like this shaft is coming out anyway. So, oh well. Oh, there we go. All right. Dude, this looks actually really good in here. I'm pretty happy with that. All right, so now probably get this guy out. This guy should just pop right out for us. You can see where that seal rides. Okay, it's just dirty. This is fine. We'll be replacing, I want to say, all the bearings on this, yeah. And I think that gear as well. So now, this whole assembly is going to come out. Oh boy, there's all my oil. But essentially, this and this shift fork are going to come out as one. And I'm actually going to find some cardboard so I can put those gears down in one place on the floor, and then that way I can get the housing off of the table, because I don't really need the housing up here when I work on the gears. These bearings definitely got some wear to them, for sure, so I'm going to try to replace those. Let's get this thing pulled out. All is one, like so. This thing's heavy, dude. There we go. So here you have your differential carrier, essentially, which this is, I believe this is the low range, and I think this is the high range. And then we're just gonna pop this shift fork off. I'm gonna set this over here. And then we're going to set the idler gear, which I think that's what this is, over here. And then this guy, I'm gonna just place over here in this box that I brought. I'm gonna be replacing this seal for sure back here. I'll have to separate the other half, so let's just do that while I'm here. You would have to get like an inside diameter puller to change this race out. So basically you need to get something in here and a slide hammer to pop that out. I'm assuming that's what it looks like to me. I'm gonna set this case over to the side. I'll work on this later. I'm gonna clean it up on the inside because we need to cut this shield for the new ring gear. We need to cut both of them on both sides of the case. So I'm gonna clean that up with some brake cleaner. Get as much oil as I can out of here. do the cutting, which I'll show you guys. And then I'll also reference Otram's channel because he does a pretty good job at explaining it as well. But anyway, let me get this situated right now. Okay, so I got this Cruiser Outfitters T-Case rebuild kit. I'm just taking inventory of what I have. And then I have the underdrive kit up here and then the low range kit right there. So we're gonna have all the ranges. So I want to see like what bearings this comes with, what seals. I'm pretty sure it's all of them. And I'm gonna kind of have to pick and choose what I'm gonna replace. Oh, nice. This probably comes with everything. So this even comes with the RTV blue. Dude, it comes with all these seals, all these little O-rings. I don't know what these O-rings are for yet, but I'm hoping I will find them as I go. Yeah, I'm not sure what this giant O-ring is for. I don't know where that came from. I'm gonna table that. Here's one of the seals. This looks like transmission seals against, I think. I don't know, we'll figure it out. Figure it out as we go. Here are a couple more seals. This looks like it's a flange seal of some kind, and this looks like, there's a lot of seals, dude. I need to figure out what goes where, why it goes there. A bunch of little O-rings. I think this comes with gaskets for pretty much everything. Here's another little O-ring. All right, so clearly I'm gonna need to figure out what goes where. But we will cross this bridge when we come to it. So in the meantime, probably what I'll do first, I'll probably do this little idler shaft first, because I think that will be the easiest one to do. It's just a matter of pressing things in and then pressing them back out. And then, so these are, I'm not sure what bearings these are for though. Unless these replace those, let's see. Okay, so this is a captured bearing. So this probably goes on this other side maybe? I don't know, man. This is a ton of bearings. All right, so let me figure out what goes where, and then I will be back to kind of explain it as we go, I hope. All right, so I'm gonna start slow, and I'm gonna start with the easiest to do first. So here is our idler gear. So I've got the two bearings that this is in charge of, and then I've got the actual gear that's gonna get replaced. So like I said, I've never done this before, so this is like kind of new to me, but that's fine. And then after that, we're gonna work on this guy up here, which I think I've found all the bearings and gears for. If not, I will quickly find out. But the first thing we gotta do is we gotta get this top snap ring off just to get it unseated. On this side. So again, I'm just gonna kind of cross stuff off the list as I go because I don't know what exactly I need and what exactly I don't. I'm pretty confident I need everything, but who knows, to be honest. Just wants to fight me today. Go figure, you get the right tool. Everything just wants to fight you. Okay. One side kind of off. I'm trying not to let this thing fly across the room like I know it wants to. There we go. Kind of taking it off like a piston ring, to be honest. There we go. We have another one right here that just needs to slide up. So let me see if I can get this with you guys right here. This one's not as, doesn't seem as stuck, but we will see. Oh, there we go. That worked out really well, actually. There we go. Okay, so we got that free. And now, what we can do is, I believe we can just press from this bearing and press all of this off at once. Let me get set up with the press, which you guys know I love to struggle with the press, and then we will press this stuff off. So I've got it set up to where it's pressing down on this shaft, and I'm going to try to press everything all out at once. So the bearing, the gear, and this bearing eventually. So again, with pressing, this should be kind of easy. So just kind of watch for this bearing to kind of get caught up. There we go. It's gonna make some scary noises. It's just par for the course. I'm just holding my hand underneath in case this wants to drop. Now it's like super easy. All right, there's that. And we're probably gonna have to put it up one to get that top bearing out. There's no problem. Let me get that set up and I'll show you guys that. All right, so I got it set up again. And I'm just gonna start the press off. There we go. I would not get lucky enough to where I could just pull it. Of course not. And I can't bang it out. All right, so, I gotta lower this again. Hold on. All right, so I got a 20 mil socket. That way it'll just press on the shaft and it should come out pretty easy now. It'll come right out. Despite all the noise, there she is. Now I'm basically just gonna remember this orientation. I'm gonna bring the new bearings over. So essentially we're just gonna press it back down on this order. Let me get everything I need for that now. All right, so I'm just gonna put it back in the reverse order. This is the new gear and the two new bearings. So I'm just gonna seat this first bearing and then I'll flip the assembly and I'll press this gear down to help seat the bottom bearing. It's about where it's gonna stop because my plate's in the way. Get this guy off. And I put assembly lube in here to make sure that everything is nice and lubricated and goes on really easily. That will press on the center part of the bearing, and then can I fit this back in here is the question. Barely. Almost. So close, guys. Oh yeah, actually I can. Okay. So, let's hope this thing has got enough rigidity to it. So luckily, pressing gears is a little bit easier than pressing bushings and stuff like that. All right, I'm gonna call that seated. Get this stuff out of here. Yeah, that should be plenty. So now what we gotta do is flip this thing over and we gotta press this gear down, which I'm just gonna use these guys right here to do. And that will help us seat this bearing as well as the gear itself. So there's splines on this gear, but they spline by themselves, so it's not really that big of a deal. I think. We'll find out. You'll be the first to know if I'm wrong, that's for sure. All right, guys, I got it set up. Don't forget your snap ring. I didn't forget mine, I'm just letting you guys know. So here we can just press our gear in. And eventually we'll get to the point where the bearing is going to start pressing in, which will probably need a little bit more oomph for that guy than just my fingers. But this is going in extremely easily, so if it's really hard, I suggest backing off and kind of taking a better look at what's happening. I'm just going to bottom this bearing out. All right. And that's as far as I want to go. And there we have it. So we've got our snap ring trapped in here that we got to reseat. Our gear is pressed on and our bearings are pressed on, and we got snap rings to replace, so let's go do that. All right, we're gonna handle this center snap ring first, just because it's the easier one, I think. I'm not sure which way I really want to do this yet, but we're gonna make it happen. Yeah, pretty easy. One just wants to go right in. And then once we get it around the splines, we can just use a chisel and a hammer to get it into place. Okay, so now, all right, yeah, that just snapped right in. We're good. I'm gonna make sure they're seated, so just give it a little tap. All right, so now the top one, we've got to put back, which is over here. And this one was kind of the tricky one that didn't want to cooperate with us coming out. So I imagine it's going to be a little bit uncooperative on the way in. Just a little bit, no problem. Again, just a little tap. Seat her in place, and she snapped in place right there. All right, so this is our first gear done. So this is the easy one, basically. I'll probably clean this up and put some assembly lube on these surfaces. I already assembled. I'll probably clean this up. This is where the seal rides. So this is good to go. Set that guy off to the side. So now what we can tackle is this thing, which, so the way Otram kind of made it seem is he pretty much just pressed the gear up and then just let everything fall. So all this comes up as an assembly, and it should be fine. So basically this bearing is going to come off, this gear will come off, and then this large gear right here is going to come off. And I think we should be okay. And then I also believe I got to open my other box to make sure that this gear is, we didn't get another one of these gears. I don't think we did, but I really don't remember. So let me check my other box. Let me move this stuff out of the way so I don't get confused with anything else, but let's get set up in the press again. All right, so here's my setup for pressing this whole assembly out. So hopefully this is gonna work like I think it's gonna work. Might take a little bit of pressure. I don't think there are any snap rings or anything for this, but let's see. Let's put some pressure on her. Let me refer to the YouTubes. Ironic that a YouTuber also watches another YouTuber to do his work. No shame in checking your work, guys. I do it all the time. I'll be back. All right, so now I remember why I bought a bearing splitter. So essentially I'm just putting a bearing splitter on this smaller gear right here and using sockets to press this down. So this is how Otram is doing it, so I'm hoping it will also, oh yeah, it's gonna come right out. Beautiful. Preventing this from falling once it breaks free. There we go. So it's a little precarious to do, but it does work. This guy's gonna come off. So this is gonna be replaced with the much larger version of that. So let me get, again, everything set up there. All right, guys, the next thing I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to get this top bearing off by using my bearing splitter. Ideally, you would use like a 2-jaw puller to get this off, but I don't have one. But I do have a bearing splitter. So we're gonna see if I can get this off using that. And if not, I'm probably gonna have to go by. Oh, there we go. Who knew? Bearing splitters actually split bearings. Grab these guys. So just a note on the bearing splitter, it presses up against the race or the cage versus the actual center portion. So you can't really reuse the bearings that you take off with a bearing splitter, or at least you shouldn't. I'm sure you can. There's no law against it. No laws when you're drinking claws, right? But anyway, I digress. I'm set up to push in the new bearing. I'm just holding that giant gear with the bearing splitter and then just pressing this new bearing in, and I'm making sure that this is still spinning. So again, you don't want to push bearings in by the cage of the bearing, you want to push it in by the center. Should be good there. Just hold this so it doesn't yeet itself off of my press. So that's that bearing replaced. Now we got to put the new gear on, the new low range idler, and the new bearing. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press this gear on first. So keep in mind that this goes here. So this is for the actual, I guess, synchro, whatever you want to call this, shift fork, whatever. So this is going to go down until it hits the plate on the top. Just doing this by hand. And then I'll put the new bearing on over top. Okay, that's pretty much bottomed out there. Now I can probably bottom out this gear first before I put the bearing on. So let's see if I can do that. Probably with that. Yep, should work. It's a little suspect. How about our most useful tool so far? Oh, nah. This side will work though. That'll work. Sweet. Give us a little bit of extra pressing room. Put my socket back under here so I don't have to go so far. I'm sure you guys are more tired of me cranking this press than I am of doing it. Perhaps. All right. This should continue. Yep. No problem. Let's see if we're bottomed out again. Nope, we're not. I think we're done. This gear spins. Good there. And now we just got to get this new bearing on. Let me lube this up very quick using some more Lucas assembly lube. You know, there's always a debate whether or not you should use lube on bearings. I do because it just goes easier. Okay, now this guy is going to go right there, and then probably use, yep, same deal. Same deal to press this bearing on. Let's make sure she's straight. Should be good there. Oh, I pressed that on too far? Hope not. All right. Still good there. Excellent. Looks like we're good here. This still spins. Please get out of here, hair. Alrighty, and I think we're good there. Should be good with that. Now for the really hard one. So, now for the actual low range gear. It's not hard, it's just, I don't know if I'm gonna have the right tools or not, so we're gonna find out very quickly. All right, gents, we're gonna try something here. So I don't have a 2-jaw puller, which might end up changing in the near future, but essentially, I'm gonna take all these bolts off of this ring gear, and then we're gonna split this essentially differential into something that makes sense. I'm gonna put all these bolts in this paper bag so I don't lose them. So this should come off relatively easily. Maybe not. I thought it did. Here, let's persuade it. There we go. All right, so as you can see, this is kind of just like a differential and just a bunch of spider gears in here, and essentially I'm just going to put this back in place like I found it, just upside down. So that way we know how it goes back together. Maybe this would cooperate with me. There we go. We're gonna take this guy off, perhaps. Yep. And put her over here. And then take this center guy out. And throw her on top, right over here. So I just reassembled it upside down. And what I think, let me grab this pin too. This pin is pretty important. And I'm gonna put that back over here. So that's where that goes, I believe. All right. So I don't have a 2-jaw puller like Otram does, which might change here. What I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to set this on the press and basically press everything off all at once. So I don't know if my press is gonna be able to do that. And we're gonna find out very shortly because I'm gonna give it a shot anyway. But essentially, I'm just gonna try to get this flush and get this moving, and then I'll eventually spread the plate that I have off to the sides of these gears, or this gear, this giant gear, and then I'm just gonna try to press everything through. And if that doesn't work, then I'm probably going to go buy a 2-jaw puller at Harbor Freight, either tonight or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. But I figured, fuck it, let's try it. If it works, now you guys know a way to do it. So let me get set up on the press yet again. Okay, so don't forget that there's a snap ring on this. I've already removed it. I'm just gonna give this a shot and see if this crazy thing actually works. And we're just gonna go from there. So I'm gonna need my big old plate. So I'm just gonna give it a little bit and see if I can even get this thing to move at all. And if I can, then I don't really know what my next steps are to get it all the way off. But we're gonna try this. And this is probably gonna be a lot of force. So let's see what we can accomplish here. Okay, so we do have things moving. I think this is just the big gear. Yep, that's just the big gear. So that's cool. That's free now. So now, what I would like to do is continue pressing. So now that I know that this gear is not going to be in the way, I can kind of choke up on this and support this gear a little bit more. And I'll put a socket underneath here. Give me some more room. There we go. So essentially, I'm just trying to get everything to move. And if everything moves, then I know this is a viable way to do this. And if it doesn't move, I'm going to stop and buy a 2-jaw puller. Okay, so it is moving quite well. I'm gonna run into a problem here in a minute, but in the meantime, continue pressing. So now I see what he means by his press is not big enough to handle all this at once. Now it makes sense, because I'm about to be in the same boat. So I've got about a quarter of an inch until I hit the bottom of that plate. Now what I can do is I can stand this up, kind of like I did the last gear set, and then begin pressing all this out. But first I need to find something. This might be it, dude. This little thing has been a lifesaver. I don't know if it's gonna be able to handle this kind of pressure though. So let's see if we can accomplish our goal with this guy. Let's hope so. I'm gonna center this up the best I can. So we'll see. I don't know if this bearing race or bushing race is gonna be strong enough to hold up to what we need it to hold up to, but we're gonna find out, that is for sure. Seems to be working. I think we're about at the bottom there. Like that bearing race can indeed hold up. Well, kind of wedged its way in there a little bit. So I might have to find something a little bit smaller. Didn't damage the gear, of course. Did leave some bite marks in here though. So let me try to find something smaller. And I'm also gonna kind of sketch this setup a little bit. Basically make it a little bit more sketchy. But all right guys, it wouldn't be an episode of Motor Mouse Garage without a little bit of sketchiness. So essentially I've got these upright being supported by, I don't know, maybe like 2 teeth. And I've got a 32 mil socket which fits quite nicely in here without contacting the teeth on the inside of here. So we're going to start pressing this again and see if this is our key to victory. Looks like it at first glance. Although I'm gonna get a block of wood for underneath here, so if it falls and I don't catch it like a dummy, it's not gonna damage anything. And I think I have the perfect block right here. So hopefully I can show you guys a different method of doing this. If this is a 20-ton press, by the way. Okay, so I'm gonna put that there in case she falls. Yeah. Getting significantly easier now. So my hope is that everything just kind of falls apart. This is really easy now, guys. I'm pretty sure I can do this by hand, possibly. Yeah. There it is. So, with any luck, oh yeah, that's looking good. All right, so we pulled the top. That's good. Pull the bearing. That's good. Pull the gear. I think we're good, guys. There you go. So, with just a small amount of sketchiness, you too can press out the entire low range and high range gear assembly with very little effort, actually. That was actually pretty nice. Okay, so just so I remember how this goes back together, I'm just gonna grab it all and take it over to the table, because I don't remember how I'm gonna forget if I don't do this. All right, good news, everyone. Good news, everyone. This actually worked out really well. So, turns out you can press it all out. You just need to do a little sketchy things. So now, what my goal is going to be, oh, also, when you press this out, there's a pin in this little hole right here. You can see that little hole? There's a pin. It's super tiny, and it needs to go back in here, and do not lose that. I knew about it just from OTRAM, so now you know about it too if you're watching this video. So I cleaned this up. This seems to be fitting on just perfectly. And what we need to do now is I'm gonna put like 2 bolts in here just across from each other so it holds this gear in place. And then honestly guys, I think we're good to start reassembly and just kind of do the reverse of what we just did. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to put some assembly lube on here. Oh, also, These gears come with like some kind of shipping coating on them. Make sure you use brake cleaner to clean them all up. And then, yeah, we're gonna lubricate this. We gotta put new bearings on here. Don't move that because that's where my pin is. Okay. So I think that's gonna hold us in the right location for where the bolts go, which is why we put a couple of them in here just so it doesn't like shift or move around. So now I gotta get the new version of, not new version, but new bearings of these, and these will go in here, and then we can start to set everything back on. Just want to show you guys that it can be done this way. You don't need a bearing puller. All you need is a 20-ton press, which obviously is a expensive tool, but highly recommended. It's paid for itself multiple times already. Anyway, so let me get all this situated and I'll show you how to assemble this. All right, so I'm gonna take some assembly lube and I'm gonna lube all this stuff up just to make it much easier on ourselves later down the line. So I'm gonna, even this stuff, I'm gonna lube all this. So our sleeve, which I'll show you in a second, sits down there, and it's kind of tricky to get on because it has to line up with this pin that we ever so carefully noticed when we took this stuff out. But I'm just lubricating this whole shaft, these splines, everything. The easier I can make this on myself, the better I'm gonna feel. I'm also gonna lubricate these new bearings, or sorry, yeah, new bearings. I actually said it right this time. I'm gonna do the inside and then I'll do the outside as well. Thanks to my Lucas Oil TM, not sponsored. If you wanna sponsor me, Lucas Oil, that'd be cool. I don't know what you'd get me, but you know, whatever. I just like your products. So, so this sleeve might have to come first, actually. It's, you know, racking my brain on how to put this back together. See, this is why filming can be a little bit of a distraction, but it's fine. I've totally forgot to clean that gear off, though. Let me figure out how this is assembled, and I'll start the camera. So essentially what we have to do is we got to put this clutch hub on, and I'm just going to use basically a drift to hit this on to the point of where I can see this little pin for this sleeve that we got here. Just know all I'm going to do is walk this on without the press, and then I'll be back and I'll show it already put together, essentially. Not just this part, and then I'll come back with the sleeve and we'll press that in. You know what I'm talking about. So I got quite the setup here. So I think I have this pin aligned. I mean, I'll find out when we get to the bottom, but it looks pretty good just from eyeballing it. And this is another press tool for my 4Runner. And so far it's working, and it's super long, so I think this is gonna do the trick. And I'm able to just do this by hand pretty much. So what I'm gonna be on the lookout for is making sure that this pin is gonna end up in the right location. Oh yeah, I think we're good there. Yep, we were dead on. Alrighty. So, hopefully your aim is good, getting that pin on where it needs to be. So now we can get this off. So now the bearings are gonna go on here, and then we can, well, first we gotta put the little shift fork on that goes here, but you'll see. I'll show you. Okay, so we have our little fork thingy on here. I'm gonna lube up where the bearings ride right here. I know you saw me do this already, but actually I don't think you did, because I don't think I did this yet. I'll lube this up, and then we'll throw the bearings on here, and then our new low range idler, I think is what it's called, is gonna go on as well. So here are the bearings. Lube these up already. There we go. Those are on. All the engagement discs or engagement things are gonna go towards the bottom. And this should just slide right over these bearings, like so. And make sure this engages properly. Should be good. There we go. And now we need the new bearing, which I'll also lube the inner race of. This goes like so, down there. And then of course, we have this little splined top gear. That's gonna get plenty of lubricant. Hopefully, everything will go together super well. There we go. And now everything is just gonna get pressed straight down. Now, I think we've got everything in place that we needed to be. So I've got the new bearing on this little gear, and we just need to finish up by closing this gap right here, which I'm not gonna do by hand, apparently. All right. Need to go a little bit farther, but I think we are bottomed out on, yeah, on my little plate. Actually, yeah, we are. All right, so we'll just do this directly, like so. And I think that should be okay. Take up a little room here. Toyota axle nut socket saves the day yet again. We out of travel? No, still going. That is where I think we are bottomed out, ladies and gents. Still good to go. All right. Yep, I can see the groove for the snap ring that goes up top, and I think we should be good. So, one more bearing we got to replace. This actually has not been that bad of a job. Like I've done worse. So let's take this over to the table. All right, now we need our snap ring back on here, which is right here, and just kind of clean it off a little bit. It's got some grit in there. Just a tiny bit. And then we're just gonna squeeze this guy. Just get it started, hopefully, without it ejecting itself out. Again, these are not the greatest pliers in the world, but they are today because they worked. There we go. One side. Here's the tooth. There we go. And I believe we're fully seated. That's pretty much it for the assembly on the gears. So all this still moves freely. We've got our little clutch that moves pretty well. Now we still have to do, basically tighten up this other side. All the bolts, oh, she's heavy, need to go on, which I want to Loctite and clean up once more. But I'm gonna get all of these started. But actually, let me get all the bolts started in here, and then we got to get the bearing off of this little differential carrier down here. We can't forget that guy. Pretty sure I can just get that with the bearing splitter, and then we'll figure out a way to get the new bearing back on. Shouldn't be too bad. I'm gonna reassemble these spider gears really quick, just so I don't mess these up. I don't have any new spider gears or anything like that. I'm just getting these in here. I'm gonna put this pin in its place on this side, and then these spider gears are gonna go like this. Well, the pin goes over here, like so. Those are good. I'm gonna take this guy out, bottom portion, and sit him on top, just like this for right now. And then grab my bearing splitter and press this bearing out. and then get the new one in. So let's get to work on that. All right, got my little bearing jig up. I'm gonna see if we can slide this bearing off, and getting it on is gonna be interesting, but I know we can get it off for sure. There's that. Old bearing off. Let me set this down. There's that bearing. All right, let me get the new one set up. All right, so I'm kind of hoping that this PVC pipe is gonna hold up, but I'm not super hopeful that it is, because that's all I've got that rides on the inner race of that bearing. So basically what I'm gonna do, don't mind me while I take 8 years to get this set up. All right, so I think this PVC might be working, question mark? I'm not really sure. It did, it actually moved the bearing. Holy shit. PVC is pretty strong, turns out. We're bottomed out right there. A little sketchy going in, but I think we made it. Yeah, man. PVC, dude. Didn't even break. Didn't even flex under pressure. Well, it probably did flex quite a lot, but worked pretty well for this bearing. And looks like we're seated all the way at the bottom, so can't really complain about that now, can I? Sweet, so PVC totally works. Who knew? All right, guys, so it's the next day for me, but for you, it's the next second. So now what I did is I cleaned up all these bolts for this, I guess, differential carrier. This is what it looks like anyway. I'm gonna put some orange Loctite because I don't have any red, and this stuff is still high strength, but it's high strength removable. So basically, I'm just gonna coat all these, get all these in here, and then kind of tighten them down a little bit with the impact. And then we're gonna take this over, clamp it in the press, and torque everything down. There's a torque sequence to this, which I'll go over when we get to that point, but for the time being, you can just enjoy this little fast forwarding of me doing this. All right, so that's gonna get us started. I'm gonna take this over to the press and clamp it down vertically, just like that. And then we're gonna torque these to 65 foot-pounds, and then we're gonna back them off and torque them to 72 foot-pounds. So let me get that set up over at the press. All right, so here we are over at the press. Again, we're gonna do 65 foot-pounds, which I'm gonna use my little wrench for this. And I'm just gonna kind of basically guesstimate a cross pattern. All right, now we should be good. Torque this first one here to 65. And then I'm just gonna go cross on the opposite side, and we're just gonna crisscross pretty much back and forth. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my normal ratchet and loosen all of these again, and then do a final torque at 72. And for this, I'm just gonna go around in a circle, pretty much. All right, we're loose, and now back together at 72 for a final torque. Just going around in a circle just to make sure I didn't miss any. Done and done. All right. So now that we've got that taken care of, now we can move on to replacing all the seals, and then we're gonna have to clearance the case for the transfer case. But let's do the seals first. Let's get all the, I guess, annoying stuff out of the way. But all right, guys, that's gonna do it for us today. This video is, again, another long one, but so we got most of the hard stuff done. So we've got all of our gears pressed off and pressed back on with our new gears. So next video, we're gonna tackle stuff like replacing all the seals and clearancing the case. So with that being said, check out the links in my description for all the FSM stuff. If you need AMSOIL products or if you need anything else to contact me, everything's in my description. And make sure you like the video, share the video, leave me comments. Like I said, I always read your comments, and peace out until the next one.